Why did India not sign the convention?
So we do not have our own law. We should have a law to protect refugees, but we do not have a law.
How does that impact upon the rights of the refugee?
Foreigners, and under strict Indian law, they are illegal. They are aliens.
Though it is not a signatory to the International Convention on Refugees, why did India not sign the convention? And does this come in the way of UNHCR's functioning in India? And does it also come in the way how effective or how increasingly ineffective it has become in India?
Refugee law was made basically in the Cold War by the Americans to support the desertion or support the Soviets or the communists from taking shelter. This was to expose how terrible communist country is and look at the number of people who are taking shelter in America and the West. So there was a politics to which non-aligned countries did not wish to be party, and therefore they did not sign that. Also, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, we had the largest number of refugees in partition. They never recognized them. So it was in that international context that we did not sign that convention. However, we also do not have a law, and we are talking about India. So we do not have our own law. We should have a law to protect refugees, but we do not have a law. Now, in this particular case, as of today, since we do not have a law to protect refugees, but India works on two levels. One is the legal regime and one is the informal regime. We accepted refugees, all these years refugees have been coming, and each set of refugees has been treated differently. So we have Tibetans, we have Bangladeshis, we have Afghanis. So Tibetans are given identity cards, the others are not given. The Tamilian LTTE refugees, they were given camps, they're in camps. So that, I think that's a whole area of refugee law. But as of now, what the worry and why this case and today the book is that when UNHCR recognized a refugee, India respected that. Indian authorities respected that. So how do they respect them? Once a refugee got a UNHCR identity card and he was determined as a refugee, that refugee went to an authority called FRRO, Foreigners Regional Registration Office. Every foreigner has to register. And the FRRO then allowed them to have a residential permit or a long-term visa. So with a long-term visa, residential permit, they could get an Aadhaar card, they could open a bank account, they could get a job, they could get a license. Slowly over time, and I would like to emphasize it's not only BJP, it's even before BJP, the government stopped giving this residential permits. Second, even when there were UNHCR refugees, they started deporting them. And it was the Muslim refugees who were mostly the target, and they were being deported. I did a case, and it's mentioned in this, 1998, when another two Iraqis, which I had taken out from jail in Goa, they came to Delhi, to FRRO, they were arrested and sent to Latur, that is in Haryana, and from there they were about to be deported. But Pancholi ji, who is sitting here, got them out, and we rescued them. But there are many who we cannot rescue because they are not told. They don't have legal contacts. UNHCR is not told. So in that context, we have formed a small organization, very small, this Indian Friends for Refugees, which we've given you. So we have done some 2 RTIs to find out how many UNHCR refugees have been deported. And they said, we cannot tell you how many.
So how does that impact upon the rights of the refugee?
Any foreigner is a foreigner in India. So there are 2 types of foreigners. One is they come with visa, passport, papers, they extend their visa, and the normal foreigners that we know, or for business, they have business visa. But those people who are refugees, they may come with a passport, but their visas expire and they stay on. So they have no travel papers. Now these are people who are foreigners, and under strict Indian law, they are illegal. they're aliens. And they're liable to be arrested, detained, imprisoned and deported. So we have been, I sound terrible, but I did the first case, I feel quite embarrassed by this, but I did the first case going to court and saying that in India there is right to life and right again under Article 4, since I see many lawyer friends, under 14 and 21. 21, Article 21 is right to life, Article 14 is right against any arbitrary procedures. So if the foreigners have such rights, how can you deport them? Because if you deport them, they can be executed, they can be tortured, their right to life is violated. So under that, the Manipur or Guwahati High Court at that accepted it, allowed me to take out those Burmese refugees. I hope they will come and you will meet them. So they come out, allowed me to bring them to Delhi. And they were allowed to go to UNHCR and they lived here 20, 21 years as exiles. Today, the same refugees, and I wish to introduce you to them, but now he's not here, so I will let you know the story. The same person who's coming here, he had come 1 year before on a visa which is gratis, which is free, given to friends of India. Then there was a coup in Myanmar, and then when he came to India thinking India will welcome, he was kept at the border in Myanmar, not allowed to travel even to Imphal, and treated, and he couldn't understand what happened.
I interviewed people from UNHCR, and one of the things they told me was that it is their understanding that any refugee that India recognizes after the UNHCR's ID card, they cannot be settled in India. They have to be settled in a third country, because that is the part of the agreement, informal agreement they have. Why is that so?
If they marry an Indian, then they can't be resettled, they have to settle here.
Okay.
So a few refugees, especially the Tibetan refugees, have married Indians and then have got Indian passports through a very convoluted, very difficult process, but they have. Most others I do not know. My own client, one married a Naga, a Burmese who married an Indian citizen, and but then we cannot reveal. Oh, it's being recorded, okay? So you can't reveal that he's married here because then he can't get resettled.
But he wants to be resettled.
Yeah. So that is one. For resettlement, it is not a right. The refugee is not told. And we do not know which process by which it is. So one of the things these two are saying, look, we are 7, 8 years. So how are you doing it? So someone who's come 1 year before has been resettled. Someone who's come 2 years before has been resettled. And it's a total mess because lots of refugees, now they are saying that only we'll take Afghanis and women refugees. So Europe does not want to have male refugees. That's not our policy, that is those resettlement policy. So, and then they have their priority areas. And that's why, so Afghanistan they bombed and they killed and then they had these 9 million refugees and suddenly then they went somewhere else and bombed. And they said, okay, now you are not our priority. And now they are bombing or whatever they're doing to Ukraine. So those are European refugees. So now we can't take about Iraq and Iran and whatever, not Iran, touch wood, but Sudan and where else. So there is no transparency at all. Then UNHCR used to give a stipend to every refugee. It used to be 1,420, it became 800, now they've stopped giving. No refugee. Then some people they give, some people they don't. So, as a lawyer for refugees, I have a right to know. And how is it my client is not getting? How do you know? And they had given to everyone except to these two. And they gave 5,000 because that's for at least for winter clothes. But they weren't. This just went on. So for
is there logic to this?
No, nothing. That's why. It was very painful that I wrote against UNHCR, but UNHCR is becoming totally unaccountable. And there's a reason for it, which is very sad, but I'm sorry. But before, the protection officer and the officers were foreigners. So not because foreigners are better than us, but they can't be corrupt so quickly. So there are allegations, I can't prove them, by refugees and by organizations saying some of it is paid and that's how they get resettlement. And I know I'm on camera, but this is what they've been told to me by very reliable people. So there is no transparency. Third, it's all outsourced. So if you want some help, unfortunately even legal help, why should we do legal help when they have a whole organization? It's not there to help. They have some other educational, they have many other, they've outsourced all their work. And at one time even the card giving, not the determination but actually giving the cards, were done by some NGOs getting lots of money. So nobody is accountable. And that's why this book became that, as I said, that closed doors, I can't get, an appointment. And I have been doing UNHCR cards free, or UNHCR cases, not my cases, but their cases. But I can't go in. Refugees can't go in. And there is no organization of refugees either. So UNHCR, and then everyone, as these two also said, they said UNHCR आएंगे तो सब problem solve हो जाएगी. They didn't realize what a bureaucratic, inhuman organization. And one of them said, when they were camping outside UNHCR, one of the UNHCR officers, unfortunately Indian, says, "ये कौन है?" The other one said, "अरे ये तो ईरान वाले हैं." They don't know कि इराकी हैं कि ईरानी हैं. They don't know that ईरान के नहीं हैं अभी. I mean, they are utter indifference, and they are getting salaries because of these refugees.
You have mentioned that it's not just the present government which has brought in this CA Act when the problems started of religious discrimination amongst the refugees. What has been the driving force behind this? Is this just plain prejudice, or are there other concerns? Are there security concerns? Are there concerns about...
I wanted to ask you that. Okay, but I'll answer for you.
Okay. No, you're the author, you must answer it.
Oh, but you're the security person, because she's the executive editor of Force.
She is author too?
No, she's author, but also of China and security issues. So that's why. But look, I am not saying that there are no security concerns. There are. I am not saying that India as a sovereign country does not have to look into security concerns. Yes, they are. And in Northeast, in the context of Northeast where a lot of the refugees come, there are. But if a UNHCR person has determined that he is a refugee, for instance these two, they themselves have concerns. So before they have the resources to check back home. So before they give them the UNHCR card, they check back with Iraq. That's why sometimes they take 1 year to determine refugee status. So once a UNHCR is, then we are sure that they are not terrorists. Then when we have a refugee law, we must have a way of determining who is a terrorist or who's not, who's a militant, who is not. But by having a whole lot of people who have nothing to lose is a security concern. So yes, I am here because I am a human rights lawyer and I am concerned about solidarity, but I do recognize security concerns. But security concern is also the other way around, that if you have 100,000 people who, and whether they are Muslim or not, I mean, they are Sudanese and they are facing discrimination, they are angry and they don't have food. And when people are angry, they do things. And so far, the refugees have been very, very restrained. So I think there are security concerns. But the way to deal with the security concern is not by denying them refugee status, by getting a legal framework to deal with the problems. And not this inhuman way, because it is more than anything else. When you do illegal things to your citizens and refugees, you destroy your own institutions. We are destroying our own criminal justice system. We are destroying our own courts. And we are destroying our own media. We are destroying our own. So this so-called concern with social security and pitting it against human rights. And on the other hand, human rights is weaponized. Human rights is used to justify wars. Women's rights is used to justify wars. So in all this we need very serious discussions. So these books which I try and write, I hope is a question of having discussion. So I think that, and if you don't do it, say so. Because I respect, yours actually is security. And on China, on the most difficult. So, and there are problems. There are Chinese spies here in India. I will never say that all intelligence agencies are working here and in Northeast.
Yes.
But the solution lies within our system and laws, not by making us more authoritarian. And it's my conviction that this is true, what I'm saying. More authoritarian, more reaction you will get. And we have pushed half the refugees to get illegal Aadhaar cards. They are living on the verge between law and illegality. So why?
The second argument is made. First is security, second is finance. India is not a developed country. We are not rich country. So we are already overpopulated country. So we cannot take burden of much more people. So what is your answer to that?
Well, in a larger sense is correct. Because what the refugees are doing, what the world is doing, is putting the burden, the poorest countries have the burden of looking after refugees. So the largest number of Iraqi refugees are in Jordan, and they are in Turkey. And this refugee rights is weaponized. Turkey is told, you keep them there, don't let them come to Europe, and we'll give you money. So Turkey every now and then says, we'll let them loose unless you do this. Now that may be interesting, but not for those refugees. So refugees are used as pawns in international games. So if we are talking about refugee rights, then yes, I think the Americans, the Canadians, the West Europe, why are these refugees? For oil, for wars. They don't want to leave. This Mizima team went back. And now they've come back and again become refugees. Refugees, not migrants. I'm not discussing migrants, and that's a separate topic. But they want to go back. They want to go back to their country. And if you give them a chance, they will go back. So the point is, yes, internationally. And why UNHCR is behaving badly also is because they don't have funds. And UNHCR is supposed, I hate to give you a very crude example, but UNHCR is supposed to give sanitary towels to women refugees. They could not even cover 20%. And they don't have money to buy sanitary towels. So and whose money? It's Western money. So who is suffering? The women refugees. So it is the money that comes, and the West has stopped giving money. So yes, in that sense, in the broad sense, yes. But if we have money to buy all the weapons, then I think human solidarity, and the cost is not very much, because what work are they doing? They have Afghani restaurants. You're not opening an Afghani restaurant. And this Akkar, there's got a barber shop. He's not competing with anyone. So actually, bulk of it is not even on the state. They're only giving them security and a law. That's all.
Any other questions? Okay. So I want to end on a feel-good note, and I just want to talk a little bit about you. The last question is about you. When you write these books and you get personally involved with the subject of your book, how deeply does it affect you? And then from one book to the next book, how much toll does it take on you, your personal resources, because you're inviting them to your home, you're feeding them, you're spending so much time with them. So what is the impact of all this on you as a person?
Okay. To my legal colleagues, they call, not the ones here hopefully, but I'm told I'm unprofessional. So it's unprofessional to get involved. First day I was told. It is unprofessional according to them. I don't think that this definition, before I was a journalist, So again, I was supposed to see two sides. I could never see two sides. I see my side and I see only that side.
To receive instant updates on all videos from The Wire, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Pay to support independent journalism. Click the link in the description and choose the amount you want to pay.